want to know what's on your mind. I actually saw you at the corner of my eye at the Alamo Draft House in Austin. At South by.
Yeah,
I saw you. You were with your little one and in the lobby, and I didn't want to bother you.
Oh.
And this hadn't quite been set up, I don't think. You were not well, I guess, right?
I was
So you
not
missed.
feeling well,
You've written. That's Chloé Zhao, and the director of The Rider, and Brady Jandreau, who's the main subject of the film. I'm going to say we're going to get to all that, but I was just going to say the film. You were at Cannes, you were at Telluride, Sundance, you were at. Right, so
New York TIFF,
New York Film Festival, unbelievable TIFF. It's like
South by.
Yeah. So at the time the South by came around, you were probably run ragged for all those major festivals. You can't really have a better festival run than that.
I'm very grateful for it. Yeah.
That was pretty darn good. And the Cannes, that's the one in France, right?
Deville, it also.
That's really funny, but yes. It's that one.
You got an award there. I'm just getting this out of the way because it's not the important stuff. The important stuff is the film and how people are going to be blown away by it and moved by it and changed in a way. You're going to have an experience when you watch it. But it's kind of to get people to go see it. You have to say these things are kind of help get people into the theaters. So like at Cannes, you won the Director's Fortnight Best Picture, the Art Cinema Award, right? And then you got this very new prestigious award at the Spirits, which is really unique. It's called the
Bonnie Award.
Bonnie Award, named after Bonnie Tiburzi Caputo. Rolls off the tongue, who was like the first woman to fly a major airline.
In America, yeah.
That's amazing. I saw the video of that, and you're, running, trying to manage getting through all the tables in the ballroom, and anyway. So let's talk about the film. This is the part where you kind of probably get asked by everybody, but I know that with your last feature, Songs My Brother taught me, was the beginning of this of the journey, I suppose, that ended up where you ended up meeting Brady and his family, correct?
After that, after the film, I went back to visit, and that's where I met Brady.
Yeah. That's the whole story. Okay. So
it's a long time coming,
Yeah. So you met Brady. This was how long after you had this horrific accident?
It was about a year before my injury, almost to the date.
So okay. Here's something I didn't know. So you actually met even before the accident. Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to make a film with him before he got hurt.
Oh.
We were just trying to come up with a story.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's actually quite fascinating. So, all right. So people listening may not know you ride horses, bronco. I don't want to describe it wrong, and I'm going to sound like the Jewish guy from New York who's trying to describe the cowboy lifestyle.
You can let him do it. He can do it. Really
It's the event that the only event I do in the film is the saddle bronc riding event, where it's the original event of rodeo.
By original, you mean just like
the very first event of rodeo of all time?
Okay,
and it is rooted based on horse training. The
breaking the horse?
Yeah, the breaking of the horse. Okay. More or less, it was how it began. Yes. I don't like to use the word breaking.
I appreciate it.
Long ago, they did more or less break the horse's spirit. They'd have 6 guys mugging him, and they'd throw the saddle on him, and someone would hang on until they quit bucking, and then once that horse was tired enough, they'd start teaching him something. I believe there are other ways of doing it, through the connection, making what I want out of the horse also what he wants. It makes it much easier.
We had this silliness. Oh, I don't want to say it's silly, but we know from Robert Redford and the Horse Whisperer kind of legend stuff. I mean, and you walk in those footsteps. He did kind of open this idea up about humans really connecting on a more Zen level with an animal. So for that, the movie actually did legitimately kind of have a point. But this movie really shows it in a real more realistic kind of less,
Hollywood.
Hollywood. Yes, that's right.
Well, you can't really ask the actors to go learn how to tame a wild horse. It's not safe.
Yeah, right.
So I was just got lucky with somebody who's a horse whisperer.
I also don't care for that terminology either.
The
horse whisperer?
I'm a horseman.
Okay.
Horse, yeah.
Well, but
you mean it's supposed to horse whisperer?
Horse trainer
or
horseman.
You mean it's silly, the horse whisperer, or just use that term as. But I only used it because it was a movie title.
Yeah, it's a magical.
I never thought you were that.
People say that. Yeah, people say that
but
as well.
It's shorthand for people.
But see, when you say horse whisperer, majority of people think that is someone who is a really good horse trainer.
Yeah.
If you say horse trainer, it's like, okay, there's a lot of horse trainer, but if it's a horse whisperer...
You have a magical talent almost.
Well, yeah.
Which you do.
It's a skill set. I mean, obviously you have to love and really respect the animal, and that's clear you do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the actual connecting part and understanding the horse's way of responding and where they're coming from, right? The mind of the horse, I understand. So that's why maybe as a shorthand they would use a term like horse whisperer, but I understand what you're doing is not that.
So we were very lucky to have a horse trainer.
Yeah.
To have a horse trainer and accomplished horse trainer and someone who is a very good actor.
Right.
That's a luck for sure.
And it is. I mean, he's playing himself.
He's playing a version of
himself.
He's definitely acting because, as you can see in real life, Brady, he's a little bit less somber.
Yeah,
a little more. In real life, he's funny. He always want to make people laugh, and he's playing Brady Blackburn, but Brady Blackburn's story is inspired by Brady Jandreau.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand. What are the differences, though? Oh, you mentioned one. Maybe you're a little.
Personality is.
He's a little bit more sullen or
somber.
Serious, somber. Yeah. Somber is a better word. Yeah, sullen makes him sound like he's like.
Part of that was to capture the. You can't really capture what's going on in someone's head, and with a head injury, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of emotional struggles and things like that. That I went through a lot of depression after my injury, especially before I started riding again, and that was to capture that. Yeah,
and also to Brady would have be a little bit more talkative than that in real life. And I'm selfishly, I love the cinema of the silence in the cinema and the nonverbal communication, because I'm also making films for people who doesn't even speak English. I want them to be able to watch the movie and not be lost in translation. And that's a choice more from a directorial to say, speak less but more communicate with your expression.
Speak less but say more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of movies that are struggling perhaps would try to compensate with explanation and exhibition. Is that the right? Did I say it correctly? Exposition. Excuse me. I know I didn't say with exposition.
Yeah.
And here, this is clearly you understand that a lot of truth comes from a physical and of emotional performance, which you don't need a lot of words to do, right? Yeah. And so it's interesting. I didn't realize that was very intentional. That these guys aren't the most verbal.
In the story, but there are also characters that play themselves, like Lily and maybe like Catelyn,
Lane.
Yeah.
And Lane, who is your friend, close friend, who also is finds quadriplegic. Is that?
No, Lane is not paralyzed. He's
explain it.
He sustained.
I said this like 4 months ago, so I apologize.
He sustained a very severe head injury, which caused a brain bleed. His skull was actually not fractured, but basically, he was going to college in Hillsboro, Texas, at Hill College on a full ride rodeo scholarship to ride bulls, and he was there pursuing industrial technologies, and he was in a car accident after being there for a few weeks. Him and a couple girls were out driving around, and the tire actually blew, and then came off the front tire of the pickup, and it rolled.
Right.
And it left the girl sitting in the passenger seat, and she passed away. The vehicle rolled over top of her, and Lane was ejected from the vehicle, hitting his head very severely and landing in a pile of Texas fire ants. The girl who was driving...
Texas fire
It was
ants?
completely dark, though. The girl who was driving,
Okay.
who sustained only scratches and bruises, she went and looked at both of them, and she thought they were both gone.
Mm-hmm.
And because she couldn't find any of their phones or her phone. Lane's phone was in his room. She was her phone was supposedly charging and sitting on the dash, and the other girl was on her phone.
I see.
So both their phones were lost in the accident.
Mm-hmm.
The windows were broken out and everything. You know.
So she couldn't find them or contact them, is that what you're saying?
She's seen Lane and the other girl that was there, but she thought they had both passed on.
Oh, I see.
And she
couldn't
had
get
no.
help.
She also had no phone.
Right.
So she walked 2 miles to get help,
Oh, my God. Right.
In the dark.
Right.
and I don't know. I don't think she was really from that area either.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure. I might be wrong. So Lane went with it for about 2.5 hours, or roughly, maybe longer.
Right. It took her
with
2 hours to get down there.
No oxygen to
Right.
his brain whatsoever.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Wow.
Laying in a pile of Texas fire ants with a piece of his tooth in his lung. Yeah.
And the ants are eating away at him? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
They said that medically he could have died from the fire ants alone.
Just alone.
The toxins in their bites.
Yeah,
And
that might have affected.
It could have
things.
died. He could have died from infection.
Sure.
Right.
He's a tough guy.
He got MRSA while he was in the hospital because
MRSA?
of it's a horrible
boy.
form of staph infection.
Okay.
It's very it's like the last stages of staph. Like you can die
Interesting.
from it very
Sure.
easily.
Yeah.
Especially someone in Lane's situation. He was medically, meaning to consistently respond to commands from a doctor. That's what gets you out of the coma medically.
Mm-hmm.
But Lane could respond to me after a few months. His eyes closed, motionless. I would say, Lane, raise your right pointer finger, and he would raise it.
Oh, wow.
But I was the only person that he would respond to. I don't know for what reason, but
Mm-hmm.
and then after about 6 months, Lane's eyes opened. And he couldn't really track or anything, but his eyes opened. They still didn't declare him medically out of the coma because he would say, the doctor would say, "Okay, now close your eyes," and he wouldn't respond. I would go there and say, "Close your eyes,"
And he did?
He would do it.
Wow.
And then
And so then it came now being Chloe's movie, and he agreed to it because you're the only one who could ask him.
Yeah, now he's able to communicate with
Yeah,
everyone.
he's
Right.
very much
Lane
there.
can actually, he's all there mentally. He is completely. The only setback mentally is he has no recollection of about a year before the accident. So basically, his whole senior year in high school is gone.
But he
that
remember
whole year.
everything from
But he remembers
childhood
it.
until
his
that
long-term
moment.
memory.
He remembers things from when we were 3 years old that I don't even remember.
Sure, I understand.
So
And he's very, like he adds to the production by cracking up jokes and by telling little lines like, and rub some dirt on it, when Brady is. So I think there's a desire. He has a desire to tell his story, because he really never given up since the accident.
and all of those videos are actually videos of Lane riding.
Yeah,
And all
I
the
figured-
videos of me
yeah.
are actually me riding as well.
Yeah, I figured that was the case too. What did he think? Where did Lane see the film originally?
He saw it Telluride.
At Telluride?
Yeah.
He
Was
got
that
to
the
go,
closest,
so.
just geographically?
Yeah, I think it's easier for everyone to try. It was also a U.S. premiere, and the weather was good. It's September, and it was incredible because it was for everybody. It was
Very
incredible.
calm, prestigious festival.
I
no
know, I
press.
heard,
and
yeah.
And-
No, I've never been invited, but
But it was a very meaningful moment for me of all the festival runs because Werner Herzog was there, and he's such a mentor of mine, and he's given the film the Werner Herzog Award. And he was there, and he gave an introduction to the film, and he's talked about how upset he is with his friends on the coast, seeing somewhere like South Dakota as a flyover state, or the heartland in general.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to, there's a young man, Lane Scott, I want to dedicate the film to him tonight, and
Where are you showing it tonight?
the award, and then that this young man represents the best of the heartland, and that was really moving. And Lane's mom was there.
Oh, nice.
That was at the outdoor premiere in Telluride.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, as a brief sidebar, I mean, I know you've been making films here for quite a while now, and you did a number of shorts before this is your second feature. It's called The Rider again, and it's being distributed by Sony Pictures Classics. Opens April 13th in New York, and
LA.
LA and elsewhere? Or?
Yeah, I
Is it
think
gonna
it's
be
going
after
to
that?
roll out slowly. And
Right.
this will.
On the 20th, I believe, San Francisco and a few other places on April 20th. And then I believe it should be nationwide in the middle of May sometime.
Great. So when did most people probably know you're from Beijing originally, and when did you move to the United States?
I moved to the UK first.
Oh, you were there? Okay.
Yeah, and then
How long were you there?
from when I was 15 to 18. 15 to 18, and then I moved to the U.S. when I was 19.
Did you come to school, or was there
I
something
went
else that brought you?
high school in England. High school in L.A. I finished high school in L.A. and then I went to college in Massachusetts, and then New York. Yeah.
Where'd you go to school?
Mount Holyoke.
Oh, okay. That's kind of like central Massachusetts or Western
Mass,
Massachusetts.
Springfield.
Yeah, right. That's a great school. And but so they didn't have much of a film program though, right?
No, it's a liberal arts women's college.
Yes, I know.
Very kind of
very progressive. Well, progressive.
Very progressive.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah, but also just is at that time everything was very much more. We don't really get our hands dirty that much. I felt I studied American politics, and there was not much I can actually do except learning from the books, and I'm never very good at that. I'm not intellectual, so I just was wanted to get in some trouble, and so I was in New York a lot, and that's why I moved to New York afterwards.
Yeah, and then when did the filmmaking begin though? What was the origin story there? I'm just curious.
Oh, to make films. Well, I grew up drawing like Japanese comic books, manga stuff, and I really love that. And I think that's the beginning of telling stories in frames. I always wanted to tell stories somehow. And filmmaking didn't really come about until I was in New York and I didn't know what to do with my life with my American politics degree. But then I just, I was like, I got to do something. So I applied to film school. It happens to a lot of liberal arts college kids who don't know what to do afterwards. And
So where was that?
NYU.
It was NYU. Yeah. Okay, very good. And so so you went to the grad
film program. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm glad you did.
I'm glad to.
Sure.
Me too.
Yeah, Brady. So Brady, you grew up in what area of the West? You grew up in?
I grew up right in central South Dakota.
Right. So is that the Badlands considered, or is that nearby?
I'm actually a member of the Lower Brule Sioux Indian Reservation, which is on the Missouri River, south of Pierre, which is like right in the middle of South Dakota.
Right.
But I was born in Rapid City at the hospital, and I was taken home to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation.
Right, which of course we know about.
Yeah, which is
here
where most of the movie is shot.
Right, it's
and my mom is a member of the Ogallala Sioux tribe, and my dad is a member of the Lower Brule Sioux tribe.
Right.
So at the age of 4, we moved back to Lower Brule, and then I currently reside now on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation again.
Okay. So this is probably, I'm thinking in relative, I don't care, what does it matter if it's in the Badlands? It's near the Badlands.
Yeah, no.
So I
it's
don't know.
in the Badlands.
Pine Ridge
is.
I literally live right now. I live right in the Badlands,
Uh-huh.
and I was born. When I was born, I was taken home to the Badlands. But the Missouri River in South Dakota, there's very rough country there as well.
Yeah. So how often would you go to the movies? I'm wondering.
Well, I grew up without much TV.
No, it sounds like it.
When we went to like my grandparents' house, we'd make sure we took our blank VHS tapes to record as much as we could, so that.
I see. You record them off the TV and watch them back at home.
I would watch like Shanghai Nights like every night for like 3 months
Jackie
straight.
Chan, who's that?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Ironically, cowboy movie.
Right, that's right.
With Jackie Chan, but.
That's a funny story.
Funny.
Yeah. Owen Wilson.
Right, exactly. A buddy movie. But I was just trying to. It's kind of just funny how all of a sudden you find yourself. And who would have guessed, right? Like here it is, all these years later, and now because of Chloe, because of the writer, you are like film has become the central part of this main thing in your life. It's well, I'm not. I mean, there are other things.
A very large part of my life.
At least at the moment.
In the moment.
Yeah, but who could have seen that happen?
Yeah. I never would have thought that. I never had any acting experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
didn't even know how a movie would go together. We were shooting this movie, and I didn't understand how they were going to put it together. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's a lot of trust they put in us, my team, because it doesn't make sense to people who didn't know how the editing process works. Like,
Did
why
you
am I
get to
doing
visit
it?
while she was editing, or they were editing? I should say. No.
That
So
was
you still don't know how it works, but
You can see it from the
I've
result.
seen how it turned out.
I remember screening for him in our house
Yeah.
in Denver, and Brady comes in. Oh, now I see why you're doing that
Or
couple
this
times,
or
and then
that.
you're gonna cut it to this one. But he was understanding, even during the shoot. Towards the end, he was
He's
telling his dad that, "Dad, just do that because they're gonna fix it in the edit, and they're gonna cut to me first."
My dad's like, "Why are we doing this again?" Well, they have to do it from my perspective.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I wish
coverage,
they did it
Dad,
from you, and then-
coverage.
yeah.
yeah,
I
Now-
figured it out after a while.
And now your dad is too. Well, I'm very glad to have been able to sit with you guys. I'm going to remind people to go check out The Rider. It's a very special film. Some might call it like kind of a hybrid because Brady, it's not a documentary, but you are kind of playing a variation or a version, as you said, of yourself. And many elements in the story, The Rider, you have experienced in your own life. So one could see the connections here, but it is a really absorbing and mostly entertaining, I'd say, and sometimes hard to watch. Sometimes because I'm real worried for like you're getting back on the horse. Don't do it. I'm a father myself, so my instincts kick in. Stay off the horse, even though it's part of who you are. It's part of your identity. So one also understands that. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty darn good. Since the shoot has ended, I've started a breeding program called the Jandreau Performance Horses. We have a page on Facebook you can go and like, and we've been raising American quarter horses, all registered through the AQHA. My wife, who is also in the movie, Terry Dawn, and my daughter Tawny Bay. She'll be 9 months old here in 2 weeks or so.
But you're medically speaking, from a medical standpoint, from a physical standpoint.
Every once in a while, I wake up in the morning and I lose about a week, and I have to have my wife kind of help me out, fill in the blanks. But other than that, I've been pretty good,
Yeah.
honestly. Still think about rodeoing every day.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your making yourself available to me and to the podcast and to audiences, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to go check it out, and I'm pretty sure the reviews will be very supportive of
Hopefully.
the film. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.